From new technologies to great discoveries, today we leave for a trip to the future. This journey is the opportunity for us to find out what innovations are being or about to be made by men and women who decide to move forward. With a common desire to revolutionize our societies, they all work on innovations that will have real consequences on our daily lives. Thanks to their ideas and determination, our future looks brighter, smarter, and more sustainable. They are the shapers of tomorrow. We move around, always going faster and further. Whether it's in the air or even in space, research is progressing and giving us the ability to travel. But this traveling has a significant impact on the planet. Indeed, 100,000 plane flights take place each day, which means more than 3 million per year around the world. The impact of air traffic on the environment has doubled in 20 years, and air pollution is constantly increasing. At the same time, research is progressing and offering the first journeys into space to individuals. In light of this, could we possibly build airplanes that are less damaging to the environment? What will the planes and rockets of the future look like? How will we get around in tomorrow's world? Didier Stein is a true climate hero with an extraordinary and promising electric plane. Olivier Savan is undertaking the crazy challenge of reducing the fuel consumption of planes. Arnaud Issès has invented a rather surprising system for reducing the noise generated by airplanes. As for Robert Gersh, he has managed to make cars fly. And space explorer Harry Van Holten is counting on private lightweight space planes. All these people dedicate their lives to research by tasking themselves with giving our journeys on planes and into space an ethical and futuristic look. They are the shapers of tomorrow. Reducing the pollution generated by planes is a major concern. One of the most impressive innovations in recent years has been the construction of 100% electric planes. On the Toussus-le-Noble airfield near Paris, we've been invited to the presentation of the E-Fan. It's the prototype of an electric plane designed for student pilots. Because even though this little airplane looks like a flying toy with its stickers and fluorescent patches, the E-Fan is a precursor. It's the cutting edge of a new generation, the future of aviation, an electric future. Because there's not one single drop of petrol in this plane, it's eco-friendly and super cheap. Let's take a closer look. Away from the hustle and bustle of society, we've come to Rayon-Médis Airfield, the birthplace of the electric plane.
I'm a test pilot for the E-Fan, which is also the 8th plane I've designed. It's the latest and greatest venture of my aeronautical career. On top of being an extraordinary technical adventure, it's also a very beautiful human adventure. It's taken a lot of skill, lots of skills and teamwork, and lots of friendship to get here too. I am, in some ways, its progenitor. I did the initial drawings, the initial sketches, the initial calculations, the initial ideas. And then we formed a small team. There were 5 of us to begin with, to get this project off the ground, and gradually the team became quite crowded. And at one point there were 18 of us building the aircraft.
The team thrashed about for 18 months building this prototype, a cross between a microlight and James Bond-style minijet.
The E-Fan has another special feature. This is a 2-seater tandem plane, so it has 2 pilot positions, 2 seats. The main position is the front one, and it's equipped with a measuring and indication system with a touchscreen called an EFIS, which provides all the information you need to fly a plane.
This lovely color screen displays information about the engines, the battery life, the navigation system, the steering aid, all within the pilot's reach. All this data is then sent back to the ground using this antenna.
What's also important is that the E-Fan is a prototype for monitoring and understanding all the configurations. It's filled with a data transmission system, so a team on the ground can constantly monitor, listen, and record all the parameters of the flight.
The project started with ideas in our heads and on paper in early 2011. We thought about making a completely new plane by designing the plane around the batteries and electric engines, which are the key technological elements of this plane.
Let's start with the batteries, which are in the wings near the cockpit. This is where the electric E-fan gets its power from. Electricity storage has considerably improved in recent years. Batteries can store more and more energy and are getting increasingly lighter. Will the electric motor be able to replace a petrol engine? Let's have a look at their strengths and weaknesses. Here's an advantage of an electric engine: its weight. To produce 100 horsepower, an electric engine can be as light as 25 kilograms, whereas an equivalent heat engine weighs 100 kilograms. For the same amount of power, an electric engine is 4 times lighter. Nice one. Another advantage of electric propulsion is the engine's output. 95% of the energy consumed by an electric engine is converted into movement. Meanwhile, the heat engine has a mediocre output. Only 30% of the energy consumed is actually used to propel the plane forward. The rest is lost in heat and friction. What a waste! In order to get an engine working, you obviously need energy, and that's where things get worse for electric engines. The actual storage of this energy. Nothing beats a good example. To travel 100 kilometers on a heat engine, you need about 10 liters of fuel, weighing around 7 kilograms. To travel the same distance on an electric engine, you need 175 kilograms of batteries to store enough energy, weighing 25 times heavier. And for a plane that needs to fly, weight is the enemy. It's bad.
Today, we are using batteries used in electric cars, so they're similar batteries. In the future, on mass-produced planes, we are designing new generation batteries that will increase battery life from the current limit of around 40 minutes to over an hour. The batteries are housed inside the wings, here on each side of the fuselage. These batteries feed the engine here, and the engine is housed in a pod. We have no contact with the propellers, and that helps reduce the noise. So it's sort of a mini electric turbine.
Since the E-fan is completely electric, it doesn't pollute when it flies. It doesn't emit exhaust fumes, and compared to the old beaters you find in flying clubs, the E-fan hardly makes any noise, nor for the pilot, nor for the local residents. This new technology is really taking off and soaring above the older machines. Another reason why this plane is almost silent is because the E-fan has been fitted with modest power engines so that it uses up as little energy as possible. So how can it stand up to more powerful petroleum-fueled airplanes? Once again, the E-fan designers have had to use their cunning. They've compensated for this shortcoming with a more aerodynamic shape and have painstakingly designed it with ultra-lightweight materials meticulously assembled by hand.
The E-fan has been entirely built from composite materials like carbon fibers and epoxy resins in order to achieve greater mechanical strength and lightness. A plane must be lightweight, especially with an electric plane, where the batteries weigh around 130 kilograms. So we had to optimize the masses, and the only way we could do that was to build with carbon, like many modern planes.
E-fan planes, which will be mass-produced, will have 2 or 4 seats, for the purposes of training private pilots, but also for future commercial pilots. When used, these planes will be more eco-friendly and cheaper to run. No fuel and lower maintenance costs. That's all you need to teach future pilots to fly. Despite the progress made by research and successful tests, the days of fleets of 100% electric planes remain in the distant future. Until then, other innovations are coming to light to reduce the use of kerosene, especially during takeoff. In the major busy airports, airplanes drive an average of 20 minutes before taking off. For this kind of driving, they use the thrust from their reactors and waste lots of fuel. The solution? Make them drive on electric energy. It's what's known as green taxiing. Olivier Savant, who's directing the project at Safran, explains green taxiing to us.
This revolutionary innovation consists of fitting the main gears with electric engines. This enables the pilot, first of all, to reverse from the boarding gate independently. Indeed, today, let's not forget that planes do not have a reverse gear. They need the help of trucks and tows to help them reverse before they start their engines. Our innovation is primarily aimed at medium-haul planes, which carry an average of 150 passengers. And these types of planes are used several times per day in terms of takeoff and landing in more or less congested airports. On the other hand, the long-haul flights will do one takeoff per day and will be more constrained by the onboard mass that we are proposing. First of all, we have to find a good balance between the constraints of the onboard mass and the fuel savings made by driving on electric power.
But in 30 to 40 years, where will electric planes be? What will the descendants of the E-fan be like? According to Jean Botti, head of innovation at the Airbus Group, the future of planes by 2050 could be a regional electric transport plane.
The commercial planes of the future, in my mind, will be hybrid electric planes with 90 seats, with the great advantage of reducing CO2, carbon dioxide emissions by 75%, and reducing noise by 65%, compared with existing planes from the last 2 decades.
The noise produced by a plane is deafening. Nowadays, somewhere in the world a plane lands every second. The noise generated by planes has already been significantly reduced. Beforehand, in order to fly a plane, you could just use the thrust induced by burning fuel at the back of the jet engine. This created lots of noise. In the 1970s, manufacturers added ducted fans to the engines, which look like huge fans. This system made the engines more powerful, but it also reduced the noise they made. Ducted fans use the combustion energy at the back of the engine to suck in a large quantity of cold air, shown here in blue. This flow of cold air considerably increases the engine's thrust. The plane travels just as fast, but with engines that run slower. But an engine that runs slower will produce less hot air, and therefore less turbulence and less noise. But for local populations, not enough progress has been made, and many protests are being held. For the last 3 years, every Monday at Frankfurt Airport, hundreds of people come and protest about the airplane noise. Today, the 152nd protest is underway and is being eagerly led by Martin Cassel.
To the north, to the south, to the east and west of Frankfurt Airport, people are living surrounded by noise and are victims of noise pollution. They come here to protest to show just how unhappy they are. They simply want there to be less noise. That's why so many people come to the protests on Monday.
Fortunately, many solutions are being developed to make airplane noise more bearable. In France, they are designing a jet engine that could reduce noise emissions by 75%. In the Netherlands, a ridged piece of public land has been built to scatter airplane noise back into the sky. And better still, scientists are yet again taking inspiration from animals, particularly the owl, whose special feathers allow this night bird to fly without a sound. So, making a plane fly more silently is a dream that could reconcile plane manufacturers and the residents living near airports. Noise pollution is measured using a decibel scale. Aeronautics manufacturers in Europe have set themselves the challenge of reducing airplane noise by 10 decibels by the year 2020. 10 decibels might not seem like much, but Laurent Lelequien, a noise specialist at ONERA, the French National Aerospace Research Center, explains to us why 10 decibels is actually quite considerable.
The decibel is actually quite a deceptive scale, because it's not a linear scale. Basically, when you divide the noise emitted in half, it doesn't divide the number of decibels in half.
Indeed, reducing the sound by just 3 decibels actually halves the amount of noise made. And the number one problem, which generates the most noise in a plane, is obviously the engine. When a plane takes off, the jets are pushed to the limit. A jet engine is a noise monster, but a new monster of power and technology could turn the tide. In the factory of the world #1 commercial aircraft engine manufacturer, they are preparing for a special event, the launch of a brand new jet engine. It's called LEAP, in honor of this technological leap. Francis Couillard, an aeronautics engineer, has the pleasure of presenting the engine to us.
It's a completely new engine, which involves huge amounts of innovation compared with the current CFM 56, which is actually a very modern engine. But this engine will entail extremely significant environmental benefits. Of course, it took many years of initially very long-winded technological development, and it's an engine that can probably last several decades.
The main innovation of the LEAP is its size. Bigger than its predecessors, it is able to move more air and make the plane fly, despite the engine turning slower. And that's precisely why it makes less noise. The LEAP is the latest generation of a technology we're all familiar with, without really knowing how it works: jet aircrafts.
Fundamentally speaking, what is a jet engine? It's a device that sucks in cold air. You inject fuel, you burn the fuel, and it causes the gases to expand because the gas is hot. And the hot air rushes quickly towards the back, and it's the fast-flowing hot air that mixes with the surrounding cold air. During this mixing phase, this hot air will create a vortex, a swirling motion, and that's the source of the noise.
So now, manufacturers are trying to increase the size of these ducted fans. The LEAP fan, for example, is 15% larger than previous models. The problem is, if it had been built in titanium, the material currently in usage, it would be too heavy. So they had to explore using a lighter material that would be just as robust: carbon fiber, woven in 3 dimensions. Thanks to this composite, the blades of the fan are more lightweight.
They are fibers that mix together so as to give greater rigidity. They really hold good. To avoid any delamination, which is what happens with certain composites with parallel layers. Here, with this woven 3D phenomenon, the composite holds better while the engine is running.
The LEAP has more than one trick up its sleeve for staying silent. Hidden inside the pod, the jet engine is soundproofed by innovative acoustic panels.
These acoustic panels are made up of one or several layers of absorbent skin with honeycomb-shaped cavities, which significantly reduce the sound within the frequencies adapted to the engine, more specifically to the turbojet.
With all these innovations, this new generation engine promises to reduce its noise pollution footprint by 75%. But while reducing the engine's noise at its source may not be enough, Schiphol Airport, located in the outskirts of Amsterdam, has found a rather surprising solution. It has re-landscaped public land to protect the local residents from the 1,200 planes taking off or landing every day. In his native flat country, Arnaud Assis, an acoustic researcher, has come up with the idea of building a succession of small, completely artificial hillocks to disperse the noise.
The solution that we made here is based on the principle of scattering the noise. So what these wedges here do is reflect the noise in all kinds of directions. Not only the direction there to the houses, but mainly the directions upwards in the sky.
Acoustic diffusion is a well-known phenomenon among sound specialists. It is used to insulate recording studios, for example. For the first time, this technique is being applied to a public garden. Here's why. In Schiphol, the landing strip is located a few kilometers from the nearest homes. When a plane takes off, the jet engine produces sound waves. Simply put, these waves ricochet off the ground, and since they hit no obstacles, they spread into the air until they reach the houses. The hillocks, lined up one after the other, make it possible to scatter some of the sound waves and deflect them towards the sky. In order for this park to be effective, a minimum number of ridges must be built. Specialists estimate that each one reduces the noise levels by 1 decibel. Under one condition: they must meet a minimum height.
To get a good result, you need a height difference of about 3 meters. So this is, from here, about 2 meters high. And we also have 1 meter down in the ground. So that makes a total of 3 meters. That's the minimum height difference that you need in order to get a good result.
The results were immediate. 75% less noise for the local residents. And the results could be further improved simply by expanding the park. Forming these ridges doesn't present any technical challenge because they are made from reusing the land dug up to form the ditches. So why hasn't this solution been used at all airports?
That's also amazes me, why this is only built up to now here at Schiphol Airport, and there's no other place in the world where you can find this. That's an important condition, that you need land, and that's in some places, I think, hard to find in densely populated areas.
Preventing plane noise from reaching our ears is one thing, but the ultimate objective is to create a much quieter airplane. For this, we'll need to make them drastically more aerodynamic. Because even as it lands, the jet engines are running at a minimal rate. A plane still makes a lot of noise.
When the plane lands, the jet engines are at low revs, so in order to ensure the necessary load-bearing support to hold the airplane up, we deploy these components on the wings. And that's a source of noise, which is what we refer to in our jargon as aerodynamic noise. It's simply the motion of the air on the protruding parts.
Here's someone who might know of a solution: the barn owl. Don't be fooled by its mischievous look. This owl is a real ninja of the sky, a silent bird. Benjamin Michael Ott, a researcher at the University of Aix-la-Chapelle, knows this bird of prey down to the feather, and he thinks it's pretty cool.
Owls are a highly qualified night hunter. Over the course of their evolution, they have developed structures that enable them to fly without making a sound, primarily so that their prey can't hear them, but also so that it doesn't confuse its own acoustic system, which it needs in order to hunt.
Thanks to the structure of its feathers, the owl seems to be able to limit how much its wings beat the air, and that's what makes it particularly quiet.
There are 3 elements that help the owl fly in silence. First of all, at the leading edge of the feather, nearest the wind, there are tiny serrations, like a comb. Secondly, unlike other birds, at the trailing edge, it has a fringe. And thirdly, it has a soft velvet-like surface, which you can feel by running your finger over it. The combination of these 3 structures makes it fly more quietly.
To better understand an owl's feathers, we really need to analyze them to the smallest detail. The tool for this is a laser microscope, which enables us to recreate a tiny section of the feather in 3D.
It's deceptive. You'd think it was big, but in reality, what we're looking at is only tiny. It's a tiny little 1 millimeter section. And you can see that the structure is very fine. It's not a massive structure. There are loads of little branches of little feathers involved.
Once they've figured out what makes a barn owl's flight so quiet, engineers will be able to make planes more aerodynamic.
It is obviously impossible to completely replicate these structures on a plane. We're trying to understand the principle behind what makes an owl silent. Then we'll try and design a model based on that and develop a way of making planes quiet.
Once researchers have understood exactly what makes an owl so quiet, they may even have to modify the actual structure of planes, or use new materials to make them even more aerodynamic. Our existing planes could eventually resemble real animals. The planes of the future are being designed to enable us to fly more sustainably and without disturbing populations near airports. But the dream doesn't end there. Will it be possible to own our own planes and use them as an everyday means of getting around? Who hasn't ever dreamed of flying away to escape traffic, or avoiding queues and security checks at airports? Well, no, you're not dreaming. It's now possible thanks to the flying car. For many years, passionate engineers and creative researchers have been working on dozens of hybrid half-car, half-plane vehicles. What are these innovations? Who can use them and in what circumstances? We're going to show you the first 2 personal air vehicles that are already on the market or are about to be. What if we are witnessing the early stages of a new type of totally innovative means of transport for the general public? One of the most developed flying car projects can be found on the other side of the Atlantic. We're touching down in Woburn, Massachusetts, on the northeast of the USA. We're in Terrafugia, a small company that has developed one of the first flying cars to be authorized and commercialized, the Transition. The idea behind this funny bird is to have a plane that can fold its wings within a minute before hitting the road. Its creators, including Robert Gersh, Vice President of Terrafugia, have had to deal with an initial technical constraint.
Once the vehicle is converted to car mode, the wings not only have to fold up alongside the sides of the airplane, but in terms of height, it also has to fit into a garage. So this wing foil was chosen not only for its aerodynamic characteristics, but because once folded up, it has to fit into your garage.
In flight, the Transition can travel up to 700 kilometers at a maximum speed of 169 kilometers per hour. On the road, however, it cannot drive faster than 105 kilometers per hour. The Transition actually looks more like a driving plane than a flying car. But according to its users, driving the vehicle, which runs on a gasoline engine, is really straightforward.
Once the wings are extended, electrically, the wings come out and also converts the drivetrain to flight mode. So the same engine that powers the wheels on the ground actually powers the propeller in the air. There are controls in the cockpit. It has a steering wheel, just like your car. It's got a gas pedal and a brake pedal. And in front of both the pilot and the co-pilot, this is a 2-seater, there is a control stick. And the control stick controls the ailerons and the elevator. So this would be very familiar to any pilot. It flies just like a typical small airplane and drives like a small car. Typically, it's somebody who wants to use it for leisure travel, to travel around the country from little airport to little airport. You have your ground transportation with you. So for the right set of circumstances, the Transition would be the perfect solution.
But is this really the perfect solution? Not quite, because you still need a pilot's license to drive it. And if you need 760 meters for takeoff and 580 to land, the main constraint is still finding enough space to land. So you'd have to find an airfield with a specialized landing strip. In other words, flying out of traffic jams in the wink of an eye is not yet possible with this model. The solution then perhaps lies within another project. A new car that is faster and easier to take off in. We're heading to the Netherlands to discover the second flying vehicle, which will soon be available on the market. We owe this revolutionary solution to Robert Dingemans.
I worked a lot in Germany, in France, in Belgium, in Switzerland, but also in Asia, the US. And you see that once you can fly, you can save a lot of time. So if I can really take my plane from home, go to my destination, take it wherever I want, that's really a mobility solution.
So in 2001, Robert Dingemans created the company PAL-V. His main project involves a huge three-wheel scooter of a very special kind. It has blades and a foldable propeller. With its 4-cylinder petrol engine, it can, like most cars, reach up to 180 kilometers per hour. But on top of that, it can fly. Its huge advantage over its competitor is that the PAL-V barely needs more than 160 meters to take off. It can then travel up to 500 kilometers in the sky before landing in as little as 30 meters. According to its designer, this supposedly all-terrain vehicle doesn't need an airstrip in order to land. A simple field will do. It's a considerable breakthrough, which, aside from private individuals, could appeal to the police or army for their operations.
Yeah, when we were thinking about making a flying car, of course you have to decide how shall it fly. So you can choose for a helicopter or a fixed wing. But we discovered the gyrocopter, which already exists now for 90 years. But it's very safe and easy to fly.
So how does it work? Like its cousin, the helicopter, the gyrocopter has a main horizontal propeller located above the device and fixed onto a rotor. The second, a smaller propeller, is vertical and fitted onto the rear. Unlike a helicopter, the main propeller of a gyrocopter is freestanding. It is not activated by an engine. When the device starts moving forward to gain speed, it is propelled by its rear propeller, which is powered by an engine. It is then the wind induced by this speed that activates the gyrocopter's horizontal propeller, thus creating the force required to fly, which is what's called lift. This makes it possible to take off and land over very short distances, even if the engine breaks down.
When you want to drive, it has to be compact. So you press a button and then the whole structure comes down. Then you go to the back to the tail and you push the tail.
The blades of the horizontal propeller then fold above the vehicle to complete its transformation. Within a few minutes, the PAL-V is ready to hit the road. So thanks to these vehicles like the PAL-V or the Transition, will we be able to use flying cars in the future? I wouldn't be so sure. There are still obstacles to overcome, because going from road driving to piloting a plane doesn't happen overnight. We're heading to Germany, to the city of Tübingen. Researchers at the Max-Planck-Institute, led by Frank Neuenhuisen, an aerospace engineer, are trying to analyze the limitations involved in the use of personal aircraft vehicles for everyday journeys. Like 4 other research centers, the Institute has been appointed by the European Commission to carry out a project called MyCopter, an extensive consideration of how flying cars may be driven. For this, they have developed this special simulator, which can move on 8 rotating axes in order to imitate any flying condition. Like a merry-go-round, the cabin puts subjects in zero-gravity conditions, as well as other visual and sound stimuli.
So, ich sitze jetzt in der Kabine vom Simulator und
Here, I'm sat in the simulator cabin. We have this screen in front, onto which we project virtual reality. We can project whatever environment we create onto it. We can develop a scenario where someone can drive a machine without being a trained pilot. For example, we're at home and we want to fly to work. We can build this scenario using our software and project it here.
Should we use a steering wheel or a joystick? The answer is not clear, but the aim is to establish the most effective technologies for producing flying machines that can be used by as many people as possible. For Heinrich Bulthoff, the head of the Institute, in any case, the future of flying cars will be automated, like vehicles that run on an automated pilot system.
We know that self-driving cars already exist, which means they can, for example, detect pedestrians. In fact, it was a real issue that needed resolving, but we managed it. This technology is called computer vision, and now it's in demand in aviation. The idea is to replace a pilot's eyes with the cameras on the flying vehicle, so it can distinguish a landing zone in an emergency in case of any problems, or spot obstacles or other flying vehicles.
Improving plane safety is important, of course, but it's not the only challenge. Because if the number of personal flying vehicles explodes, all airspace legislation will have to change. New air corridors will have to be established for these new vehicles.
It's exciting, but there'll probably be corridors around towns lower than those used for commercial planes, a sort of highway. In any case, there'll be authorized roads and non-authorized roads, but inside which we'll have to be able to control the machines in order to eliminate the risk of accidents.
After years of dreaming, the two first flying cars have now made it onto the market. Other machines will follow, like the Aeromobile, the Slovakian project, which is still waiting for the necessary accreditation. The only technological challenge left to overcome is developing a machine capable of a vertical takeoff for instant flight without a need of an airstrip. Some projects, including this French vehicle, already seem rather promising. Let's now look at what our holidays of the future could look like. Flying in space. Who wouldn't dream of being like an astronaut, floating weightlessly on the edge of space, with an unobstructed view of the great blue, our lovely old planet Earth, which we'll be leaving for a journey of a new kind, suborbital flight. For about 15 years, private companies, mainly American ones, have launched themselves into the space market and are promising through huge marketing campaigns to make space more accessible and even tourism-friendly. However, to date, no one has boarded yet. So is it an empty promise, or is the idea just slow to take off?
Technically speaking, it's feasible and there is a market for it, so it will happen.
The prices will remain high, and it will probably never be a market that many people can access.
It never goes as quick or as the way you expect, but we'll get there.
So who can actually afford to buy a ticket into space? Yves Plandu believed his dreams were within his reach. In 2005, he bought a ticket to space for 180,000 euros. Tickets to space don't come cheap.
Hello, Yves. How are you? Come on, I'll show you the beast.
Thanks. Great.
To buy the ticket, this restaurant owner from Aix-en-Provence had to sell his house.
You'll be in the back seat here.
The journey into space was supposed to take place in 2012, but the years have gone by, and he's still on the tarmac. However, Yves Plandu still believes in it.
Right, let's start with the instruments. So, it's all classic.
And for this, he has been training. Today, he's come here to be shown around a fighter jet, which he'll be flying in. His aim is to familiarize himself with the tremendous acceleration he'll be subjected to in the space vessel, because he's obsessed with being ready when the time comes.
You have to relish the moment you're going to experience. It's short, and it's a dream, so it has to go well. I think you should prepare yourself calmly, without pressure, but also be able to take pleasure from it.
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike, it really is.
This started at an early age. It was my childhood dream. As soon as I saw Armstrong on the moon on July 21st, 1969, even though I was a tiny kid, it really moved me. And it's a dream, but it's a huge privilege to be able to make it come true.
To understand where this taste for suborbital travel came from, let's journey back in time. The first suborbital flight was carried out by NASA in 1961. It wasn't until the 2000s that it became a commercial enterprise with the emergence of new space. New Space is a new generation of entrepreneurs who are determined to invest in space. Christophe Bonal, a senior expert at the French Space Agency, recalls New Space as a real cultural shock.
We saw them all coming. GAFA, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, all launched themselves into it with considerable means, poaching the best people and ending up in a field where they're ultimately shaking up all the traditional players.
So how did we get here? In the early 80s, NASA started what's known as the Space Shuttle program. Machines principally dedicated to replenishing scientific stations, the Mir Space Station and the International Space Station.
2, 1, 0, and liftoff of Space Shuttle and Lynx. Mission to build.
But although these shuttles are very effective and can do return trips between Earth and space, they are very expensive and undergo lots of damage. In 2008, Elon Musk and his company SpaceX was given $1.6 billion by the US government. Since the shuttles stopped running in 2011, this new company has been responsible for transporting cargo to the International Space Station. But the promise of making space more accessible requires one more thing: a lowering of the costs. Elon Musk assures that he can divide the price by 100. That's an astronomical discount, given that the slightest suborbital flight costs at least 60 million euros. But these forward-looking companies are sure of it. They have the key to the problem. What are the solutions?
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The main idea, which is inspiring many suborbital flight candidates, is the reusable rocket. Or, to be more precise, the reusable rocket launcher, or the first part of the rocket, which contains most of the engine power. Until now, these launchers have never come back to Earth. They are crushed or abandoned in space. Take a look. The rocket is going to land on the return base, almost to the centimeter. It's a real achievement.
Welcome back, New Shepard.
The company Blue Origin, owned by Jeff Bezos, the head of Amazon, was the first to successfully complete a return journey with his rocket launcher in November 2015 during a test flight.
Perfect landing. We made history today.
Jeff Bezos' philosophy is really to launch, land, and repeat. When the vehicle comes back down and is slowed down by its rocket engine, and all the aerodynamic, thermal, and other stuff is very complex, very hard to understand. So we're looking at it with great interest. It's fascinating. It's inspiring.
With Blue Origin, the dream of space tourism seems well within reach. The concept? A one-stage rocket called New Shepard with a capsule at the top, which will carry 6 passengers. Once shot out 100 kilometers into the air, the capsule will break away and experience a few minutes of weightlessness for the happy tourists before falling back to Earth. The first test flights are already scheduled, and passenger tickets are expected to be on sale by 2019. But treat that date with caution. The price of a ticket is not yet known.
Surface checks good. Escape system enabled.
To reduce the astronomical costs of space, an American startup is focusing on a completely different idea. A very lightweight small space plane. Welcome to the Mojave Desert in California, a popular playing field for the new American space people. It is here, in this hangar, that the company XCOR has developed an astonishing space vehicle, a small rocket plane. Its name is Lynx. Harry Van Holten is a test pilot. He'll one day be at the controls of the Lynx, which is still in its prototype stage. Measuring only 9 meters long and 7.5 wide, this machine appears to be a featherweight. Its main advantage is that it's easily reusable.
It offers a few innovations. First of all, it takes off from a regular runway instead of a vertical launch. It is very small. That means agile and simple. It only seats 2, a pilot and either a tourist or a mission specialist. So it starts at a very small scale. The engines are reusable and reignitable, and that really starts to look like aviation-like capabilities.
Here's a little demonstration, thanks to a flight simulator on board the Lynx. Obviously, it's purely fictional, given that the Lynx doesn't yet exist. But imagine being the passenger sitting next to Harry. Just one detail. You'll need to shell out 135,000 euros. So, ready to take off?
All 4 engines are running full speed right now. So we're slowly but surely getting to the climb attitude, which ultimately will be going almost straight up. In the meantime, we're still being pushed into our seat. We'll be going supersonic soon. Right now we're approximately 30 kilometers up, so we're exiting the atmosphere, as you can tell. Straight ahead it's black. The lighter part is now below us, and we're pretty much free to maneuver. And right now we're weightless, or this is the microgravity phase, if you will. And I'm now repositioning the ship for the re-entry. We're back in the atmosphere. All we need to do is decelerate to what we call subsonic airspeed. And this is the way we're doing any normal landing.
After these 4 minutes of weightlessness, all the Lynx has to do is land on the landing strip like any other plane. The Lynx can complete 4 flights per day. It's a lovely project, but it's struggling to materialize. XCOR went through financial difficulties and was forced to file for bankruptcy. Other trailblazers have similar projects in the pipeline, and they count on seeing them through to completion. So, when will we be climbing into one of these space machines? Crashes, late starts, difficulties of all kinds. Are new space's promises to be believed? What are the limits? The idea of reusing rocket launchers, or even any space machine, is far from winning anonymous support from the experts.
All these restoration and reuse operations. For example, in a rocket engine, the inside of the combustion chamber reaches 3,000 degrees. So to be able to rely on something that's experienced such hell is very complicated and not yet proven.
So there's no guarantee of lowering costs by reusing these machines. And that's not the only problem.
It's still expensive. Going into space is difficult, and you have to have the right equipment and have adapted physical abilities. And it's still a barrier to many people, many among us. For rockets, people are trained up for years before they become astronauts because they have physical abilities, abilities of all natures, which allow them to fly in a rocket, which is extremely brutal. Rockets are very brutal.
Whether it's Virgin Galactic and its funny vessel, Blue Origin and its rocket, or the XCOR plane, space tourism still doesn't seem ready to take off. And investors are starting to have doubts. They're now waiting for results. Some specialists are even concerned about a financial bubble. However, suborbital flights could be used for something other than tourism. You might never have thought about it, but space could be very helpful for getting us around on Earth. At the DLR, the German Space Agency, they are working on a hypersonic plane project. Paris-Sydney in 90 minutes? Berlin-New York in half an hour? This is the promise made by Spaceliner, the space plane that can transport you at 25 times the speed of sound. Carried up to 80 kilometers altitude by a rocket launcher, the vehicle continues its route outside the Earth's atmosphere with no means of propulsion thanks to its own acceleration. It's like you're on a commercial plane, but it's going 30 times as fast. Martin Sippel is in charge of the project. For him, climbing into a Spaceliner shouldn't be a mean feat.
Almost anyone can board a Spaceliner. You are sat comfortably in your seat, apart from during takeoff, where you're pressed down into your seat. But you don't need special training for that. And it won't be any worse than sitting in a roller coaster.
But this plane does have special safety requirements.
Here you can see there's a sort of shell around the seat. In the event of an accident, inside the passenger capsule, these kind of airbags close in around the seat. Oxygen masks won't be enough. The pressure is too low. The passenger won't survive without this protection.
Commercial use of the Spaceliner isn't expected to be available for another 25 to 30 years. There are still many technical difficulties that need resolving. And will this plane be cost-effective? With a ticket price of 180,000 euros? We're still skeptical. So, will we all be in space in the future?
Nowadays, space is still very risky and very expensive because of the energy it requires. But in 20 or 30 years, why not?
A larger audience will be able to go incrementally and increasingly in the next decade.
So, come back in 10 years and see how many space tourists have taken off and returned. So, in the future, we will be able to get around easier and go further, but without harming populations or the environment. It's thanks to the relentless work done by these men and women, real-life invention superheroes, that we can reinvent the world and build a better future. They are the shapers of tomorrow.